I think we should grow so much that we're almost surprised. I would like it for your life that even in the next 5 years that things become so good that they're almost weird.
Tim Storey is a renowned life strategist, author, speaker, and counselor, famously dubbed the original comeback coach.
Most people are trying to chase what I call a good idea. There's a difference between a good idea and a God idea.
Some of his clients are celebrities like Robert Downey Jr., Kanye West, Charlie Sheen, about 300 A-list celebrities.
Here's what I have found in observing people's lives.
One of the best guests I've ever had on the show that's going to help you.
Number one, become awake. Secondly, take inventory. Number three, to be a human being is to be fully present, fully feeling, and fully alive.
All right, so Tim, I got a question for you. So I looked this up. A lot of people call you the comeback coach.
Yes.
What's behind that?
It started years ago when my doctorate's world religion, master's in counseling therapy.
Okay.
And it seemed that a lot of people that were coming to me as a counselor therapist were in major dilemmas, like major setbacks.
Yeah.
And that happened in my early 20s when NFL players started to seek me out through the agents or managers that had mega setbacks.
Okay.
And then became pretty good at getting people out of a comeback, and then I got really
give us
great
an
at it.
example. Like, give us a, I love the NFL, so give me maybe, if you can, I don't know if you got NDAs with some of these people, but like, is there like a person that comes to your mind that like, this person was like doing amazing, like star, whatever, running back or whatever, and all of a sudden like just got in their own head, and how did you help them overcome that?
Yeah, it's very common. So let's say, if you look at the Dallas Cowboys when Michael Irvin was getting in trouble, and you had other guys from the Cowboys getting in trouble. People would say from a team, can you troubleshoot? Can you help? Then I started working a lot with the Raiders. I was super good friends with Al Davis.
Okay.
Mark Davis is one of my best friends today.
Okay.
He's the owner of the Raiders, and started troubleshooting for them. And then it literally took off into like 11 teams.
Yeah.
So I would say that if you ever saw a guy on Sports Center that was in trouble, I would say there's no doubt about it. I work with 50%.
They called you in. So this is a question I have because, it's interesting, because, salespeople watching this, entrepreneurs, whoever's watching us right now, you have a lot of, and I think that it applies to business and sales as well, but you have a lot of these players that, let's say they were amazing, obviously in high school, and then they go into D1 and they're like the bomb, they're like the number one person. And then some of them get in the NFL and they just kind of you never hear about them anymore. And 3-4 years later, they get cut.
Yeah.
Compared to a guy like, let's say, a Tom Brady, who is, was decent his senior year at Michigan, and then all of a sudden now he's the greatest of all time. What is the difference that separates those athletes that are the best in college to not being that great in the pros compared to maybe someone who's average in college, but now somehow
Well,
become
you
the pro?
obviously
What is
know
it?
sports and great way of looking at it. So I see it as personal development. So whenever you get around some of these people that are extremely gifted, the gift will only take you so far, as you know. It's the personal development. Like a friend of mine, Curtis Martin, he played for the New York Jets for a long time.
Yeah, Curtis Martin, running back?
Running back.
Yeah,
Was
okay.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Came out of Penn as well. And he was talking about in his own life, he knew that his longevity in the NFL would only be so long if he didn't develop himself as a person. So let's switch sports for a second. Let's take it to basketball. That's why John Wooden at UCLA back in the 60s and 70s won so many games, because everything was about personal development.
Yeah.
Where he created the Wooden ways,
Okay.
which was about character, showing up on time, mindset. So I think the same thing in sports we can apply to business, so we can create this type of longevity where you get better every year.
Hey guys, Jeremy Miner here. Look, a lot of you leave comments wanting me to help you sell more. So the easiest way to get a hold of me, the quickest way, is to text me. So text me right now. It's 480-637-2944. So 480-637-2944. Listen, I started this company to help you learn how to close more deals, but do it the right way. Text me right now. Let's get back to the training video.
So basically, from a psychology point of view, he wouldn't build his players into the identity of the people who become the best. That's what he did, because they all didn't come to him that way, right? Sigmund Freud says the best people do who they believe they are. That means, they're going to make their decisions based on who they believe they are, like their identity is.
Yeah.
So when you're working with somebody, because we got you're working with Robert Downey Jr. and some of these people that have maybe had some things going on. How do you shift? I know this is kind of a big question. How do you help shift their identity into this person who they can become?
Yeah, well, the Freud quote I've never heard, but that's really a great quote.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is you have to make people aware of who people think they are. Okay? So like with Shedeur Sanders, so I've been friends with Dion, super, super close, like brothers, for 25 years. So I do believe that Shedeur is a very strong young man in every way. But for some reason, he was drafted really late in the 5th round.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot of talk about why that took place. But the reason I bring that up is I think that when I'm working with people, I like to really challenge them on, let's look at how people perceive you.
Yeah.
Let's look at what people expect from you. And based on perception, expectation, but also of who you're supposed to be, we better step up the standard and then keep that standard high.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool thing for any of us of what we do, is that what do people expect from you? Because you have expectations, you're doing great at what you do. And to take that standard high, but keep that standard high.
Yeah. So let's come back to this identity framing, because somebody like Sanders, I think Tony Robbins says it best. I might be misquoting him, but he said, life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you, right?
Yeah.
So here you have Sanders, he gets drafted in the 5th round. Now, depending on how he reacts will determine his entire future, because a lot of people can be like, oh, I'm the victim, this is bad, I should have been this, I should have been that, and kind of blame everybody else. Or you can say, hey, I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to get a chip on my shoulder, kind of like Brady. And then, hey, I got drafted right here. I'm going to show everybody who I really am.
Right.
How do people go either way?
I think
what
that
goes on there?
It's very important to be able to cope with criticism. I don't mind criticism, because even if they are 70% wrong, they might be 30% correct. So even if I give a speech, someone may say, I thought there was too much hype in that, or I thought he used too much energy. And guys on my team, that will bother them. I go, no, it's not just coming from a negative person. I want to hear what they're really saying. And I think that that's a rarity in a lot of business women and businessmen that I work with, that they've read so many books about what a leader is.
Sure.
And I think that what a leader is, a lot of it is changing. I think I'm really into servant leadership and being very down to earth. And some of the most powerful leaders I know are very down to earth and very caring. And if they met you, they would really look at you in the eyes and be nice to you.
It's the emotional connection.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm very good at coping with criticism, and I try to build that out in the clients that I work with, is that when you're a leader, you're going to get criticized, and it's not always negative.
Sure.
We can use it for our betterment to grow.
Yeah. If you're, there's a lot of types of people, but let's say I call the person that can't take they can't take criticism as the know-it-aller. They think they know everything, so anything, like, they think they're perfect, right? And that typically holds them back from greatness, right? If you look at like somebody, if we're talking in sports, like Tom Brady, that guy is committed to mastery. So if somebody's committed to mastery, they want to know how everybody perceives them, because, you know, it could be a hater that, you know, nothing you can do for them. That's more on their end. But it could genuinely be like, hey, like, I do this well, but like this, I need to get better at.
Yes.
And so if nobody tells me, I don't know what my problems really are. So you got to be able to have the fortitude to be able to do that.
Yeah, and you understand this, is that a lot of people talk about, like, in a certain era, not everybody got a Little League trophy just for playing. You got a trophy because you won, or maybe you got one because you came in second place. And I think that there's pros and cons on both sides. But I think part of the idea of everybody getting a trophy is that a lot of the new generation is not used to the challenges that we got. That had nothing to do with being like in the military. It's just like me being a busboy. My boss would challenge me. When I was a dishwasher, my boss would blatantly challenge me, and it didn't affect me. I was just like, that's part of
life,
being in a job and part of life.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, I think there's a middle ground. I always say the truth is usually in the middle in most things. Not always, but like even with the trophy thing, it's like, you know, I don't necessarily would say I'd need a participation trophy, but if you had a trophy, because I remember my son was like in kindergarten and they gave him all MVP trophies, and I'm like, that just, like, you can't do that. Like, give the MVP of the game that trophy, and everybody else can have a trophy that says that they, you know, that such and such tournament or whatever like that. But you can't label everybody's trophy as the MVP, because now the MVP, it doesn't mean anything. You have nothing to work for, you know? So there's like a middle ground. You can still give out trophies, but like maybe how you label the trophies. Okay, so let's talk about eternal brief. So you talk about, I was watching one of your reels a few minutes ago. You said that limited-minded people are really going to struggle in the next few years. Where does limiting beliefs come from?
Yeah, I think the person that's made it popular today would be Carol Dweck, the teacher from Stanford, on the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. The growth is to expand. The fixed is to stay stuck. But I think people like me and you, probably since our childhood, we had a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. So I was fortunate enough to be raised by 4 people that were older than me, and then I came about 4 years later. So my older sister is 9 years older. So I had plenty of room to get a growth mindset just from my older sister. So I've always been a nerd in school, always done well in school. School is exciting to me. But she never let me get away with anything, meeting my older sister, because she said, you know, there's more in there. There is more in there. So part of the growth mindset for me was I had an example. So let me just say to you, like, who would have been an example to you when you were little to have a growth mindset, whether in business or how to be together?
A lot of it was sports for me. I played college baseball, high school football, high school baseball at a high level, and then college baseball. And I would say, as a freshman, I was on the varsity team. I was somewhat decent. And the seniors, there was one senior in particular, one of my really good friends, that took me underneath his wing. He was super competitive, played college football as well. And like every freaking morning, like at 5 a.m, we're like running hills. And it was just kind of that input in my brain that, look, if you want to be the best, you have to be willing to do what other people are just not willing to do.
So number one, that's a big deal, because I played sports too. And to play as a freshman with seniors, were you more intimidated or motivated? Because now you're with guys that were bigger than you.
I think I was probably more like, I got to freaking learn how to do this. I don't want to, in my mind, it's always like, I don't want to finish second, if that makes sense. I want to help the team win. So I feel like I have an obligation to the team to perform at the highest level I can, so I don't let the team down. I think that's part of it. So
I'm loving that. So as a therapist, life coach, I think that people more often need to put themselves in that type of predicament where they're in over their head. And they say, I have to rise to the occasion in my mindset, how I look physically, how I feel, my energy level. I don't think enough people challenge themselves because as a freshman, I mean, 3 years later in school, these kids are already getting big. They're like getting beards and hair on their chest.
It's a different level.
You're a freshman.
Yeah.
So that's how I did. Like when I was in my 20s, I was amongst like mega people.
Yeah.
And I needed to be, but I'll tell you what, they were also very rough on me.
Yeah.
And I needed to have thick skin. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I mean, it's good to be around, you know, like I always say, I try to be in rooms where people are far more successful than I am. I don't like to be in rooms where I'm like the biggest, you know, I've joined a few masterminds that were really popular. And, you know, I find out that we have the biggest company out of all of these. And I'm like, hey, this is great, but I want to be in a room where like I'm the smallest company now, if that's the case. So, you know, it's the cliche, you are who you associate yourself with. I think a lot of people say that, maybe they just don't understand that's really, really true.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So who are some people that really helped you? Like as you came up, so you know, you went to school, you got your doctorate in
world
psychology,
religion.
world religion. Okay. World religion, and was it? And what did you get? Your bachelor's?
So it was like a seminary.
Okay.
And the reason I did that is because I was very taken by Mother Teresa when I was 17.
Okay.
I was an athlete in high school. A lady named Kathy from my school, she gave me a book about the life of Mother Teresa, and she goes, Tim, this lady reminds me of you, because even though I was in a popular group, I always loved the underdog. It's just who I am. I look for the person that's not doing so well.
Yeah.
And I read this book, and I went and talked to the guidance counselor, Mr. Coates, and he's like, you know, Tim, this is wild. I know you want to go to USC, and I had very good, strong connections at USC.
Okay.
And he said, but if you don't mind, I want to get you some brochures. It was brochures back then. It wasn't the internet. These thick brochures.
Yeah.
And he gave me these brochures on 3 seminaries. I chose one. But I never knew that I'd become this guy, because seminary to me was about how can I find a way to uplift people's lives. So even when I was in seminary at 19, I was there at 18, but at 19, I created my own curriculum and started going into inner cities and just changing people's lives.
What drives you to want to do that, though? There's something, you know, typically I went to school to become a psychologist, neuropsychology, how your brain works in conjunction with the nervous system. So there's something like your belief systems are typically established from ages of 4 till 13, pretty much cemented by the time you're 18, right? So what was installed in you early on? It had to be somebody installed something in you that would cause you to have even that thought process to want to do that.
Yeah, I think it was, there's no doubt about it, it was pain, P-A-I-N.
Okay.
Because there's a scripture in the Bible about Jabez, and it says, and Jabez was birthed in pain. I was birthed in pain. So I was birthed into a family where they already had 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment in Compton.
Wow.
So they already had 6 people.
Okay.
And then I was an accident, came almost 4.5 years later. So they brought the 7th person with no like big applause into this 2-bedroom apartment.
That's God knew that, you know, for you to do what you do, that's ready to be
with
born.
a mother with a 6th grade education, with a father with a 10th grade education. It did not look like I would be this guy that I became.
Yeah.
So I feel that I was birthed in pain and never limped around, never felt sorry for myself, never made excuses, never told people about the pain that my family was in.
Yeah.
And got around great people.
Yeah.
Had great coaches, just like you did. I think my coaches, Sunday school teachers, those people really helped me to understand the high standard and the high calling that I had.
Well, it's interesting you say that. It reminds me of kind of Tony Robbins' story. Like, same thing. You know, life doesn't happen to you; life happens for you. Had you not been born in those circumstances, in that family, you might not be doing what you're doing.
I don't think I would be.
You see.
I don't think I would be because it's you being the freshman going to the high school team. Like for me, I was always the underdog. So it's weird now to not be. But I was always the underdog coming up, like because of the background, because of the skin color.
Yeah.
I was always the underdog. And then it was weird. It's like almost like when you see a wrestler
Yeah.
and he looks like he's getting his butt kicked, and then like he does one maneuver and flips the guy over. All of a sudden, in my early 30s, life brought me something. And that was the most powerful people in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
I literally started working with probably 8 of our biggest actors of all time. And it was just like a boom. It was like a flip.
Yeah.
But the weird thing about it is I never looked for it. I could not have manipulated myself into it. It's just I had a skill set,
Yeah.
and those people needed it for either them or for their kids.
Well, that's what I would say. Like, I don't know who said this quote. Steve Martin, I'm not sure if he actually said it, the actor, but he says, become so great they can't ignore you.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have skill level, like you can't really be ignored. And if you live your life like that, if you're, a lot of people will talk a good talk, but they just don't have the skill level to back it up, right? So when you have the skill level, people come to you because of the results you get. Like it's not, if you get results,
You're exactly
people
right.
find out.
So number one, I love Steve Martin.
Yeah.
I know more about Steve Martin than most people realize. Because go back to Saturday Night Live days, he was
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah.
And his skits that he did. And then he's just brilliant in this series that he's in with Selena Gomez.
Yeah.
But it's so true. So on a biblical standpoint, it says, do you see a person skilled at their job? They will be ushered into the presence of the great. The word skilled there in the Hebrew means they've mastered it.
Yeah.
So it really goes into this idea of Malcolm Gladwell. To become a master, you have to put in 10,000 hours. So
Sure. I'd say minimum. Yeah.
And with the right instructors.
With the right instructors. Michael Jordan says it best, you can shoot 1,000 jump shots a day.
Yeah.
But if you were taught the wrong technique, you're still
Yes.
going to suck at basketball.
Yeah. So like, for instance, like I hang out with a lot of guys that are super good in understanding crypto, Bitcoin. I'm good enough, but I'm not a master.
Yeah.
I know other guys that are masters, like a Grant Cardone in real estate, or Ed Milet and just accumulating wealth. I'm good at that, but I'm not a master. But in what I do, I'm pretty doggone hard to beat. And and the way I see it is you build your spot and life will put the spotlight on your spot. So
Great.
I just became good at something and people found me.
You got to put your horse blinders on. I don't believe you can become a master of all things if you try.
Agree,
if you
agree.
try to the time it would take you to master crypto
Yeah.
would take away from what you do.
Yes.
Right. So, because training, like with your work, I'm assuming, going to go out on a limb here, that you just didn't stop 5 years ago and be like, I know everything. I'm not going to learn anything. Like my stuff's perfect. You're always evolving.
I'm
right?
training 2 hours a day. So I studied 2 hours a day, did it already. I studied 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. And sometimes it has nothing to do with anything that I'm going to speak on, share on, write about. 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm constantly talking to people that it blows them away. They're like, why are you calling me back? I go, because you know something that I don't know about that particular subject.
Yeah.
So whether it's talking about the subject of shame or time management, man, I'm constantly trying to learn.
Yeah, you always have to evolve. You lose it if you don't. Anybody that's committed to mastery, and this is why, watching Tim here or listening to Tim here, you want to get better at whatever. If you want to get better at sales, persuasion, influence, that's probably why you're here. Training is not something you did. Right. Training is something you do daily. It's like Steph Curry, like just stopping, practicing, shooting threes, right? But he's out there every day working on his elbow technique, his hips, like everything, because he knows to be at that level, to master something, you have to do it every day. Otherwise you're behind. Okay, so let's talk about, I think all greats in any subject or anything that they do. It could be from the military to a neurosurgeon to an attorney to somebody in your profession.
Yeah.
I believe they master and they recognize patterns.
Mm-hmm.
What are some patterns you've recognized with clients you've worked with, and just their limiting beliefs and helping them overcome? What are some patterns you kind of universally recognize in that?
Great question. I think that one reason the James Clear book, Atomic Habits, is sold around 40 million copies, which is a lot of books, is because it's something that people know that they need to have.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see, whether it's with great actors I work with or entrepreneurs that I work with, is they really have found a way to create really great habits.
Mm-hmm.
They're very habitual.
Yeah.
And almost to the point where some people will get irritated because they're so that way.
Right. Regimented.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect word.
Yeah.
And so I honestly believe that if one could develop the right habits that are leading in the right direction, you are really hard to beat.
You really are.
You are hard to beat because you will so find yourself in the head of the Boston Marathon because most people are too doggone lazy to develop those habits. So let me just say this real quick.
Yeah.
The Boston Marathon, you have over 30,000 runners, and everyone's running for different reasons. Could be because for cancer,
Sure.
or to show that they still got it at age 73, or first marathon, or 10th marathon, or marathon in every state, different reasons. But the ones that continue to rise to the top are the ones that have these amazing habits. And so I studied something. A lot of the top marathons were won by the Kenyans for a long period of time. And now if it's not a Kenyan, it's people that have been trained by the Kenyans. So I actually did a 2-year study of how to run like a Kenyan.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a couple things.
Yeah,
Number
I'd love to see
one, they like to run on gravel that's uneven
Okay.
so that their feet get to a point where they can handle any type of adversity.
They're more flexible.
More
Okay.
flexible.
Okay.
The other thing they do is they run practicing going uphill.
Okay.
The other thing is they run in high altitudes so they can handle that with their breath.
That makes sense.
They also run in extreme heat. And then they also have a Kenyan style of running on how they move their legs and how they move their arms. And so when you look at the people from Sudan, Ethiopia, remember I'm deep into this, and I've talked to some of the top Kenyan runners of all time. They run like Kenyans.
Interesting.
And it is a habit. It is a form. You know they've been trained by the top Kenyan runners.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it for you or for me. I would almost want to see you the more I was around you. I want to know like, oh, dude, he was trained by so-and-so.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, she's got the mark of so-and-so.
Yeah. And I think it's really important. This is why being trained, whatever you want to do. So like if you're in a profession, you want to become a master of something, this is why it's important to be trained by someone who's already mastered the thing you want to master, because the masters are not just the greatest at, recognizing, the good habits and the good patterns, but I believe they're a few steps ahead because they recognize their bad habits and their bad patterns, and they want to always change those.
So
and they're
good.
always looking for, what are my bad habits? What are my, I say I want to change, and then I'm at an event and there's an offer there that I know I should do it. I knew if I did it, it's going to completely change my life, yet I still didn't do it.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, that's called a pattern, and those patterns hold them back.
I like that, and I think that that's somewhere we should stay for a minute because it's almost like, because you obviously work out, I go to the gym too, where you see guys that are looking great on top, their chest, their arms, and then they got those little chicken legs.
Right.
Because man, it's just a lot more fulfilling to work the upper body, right?
Yeah, true.
And I see that a lot in entrepreneurs where they want to learn how to scale, and there's certain things that they want to learn about, but they're not willing to go in the trenches and work their legs and go into the problem areas.
And I think a lot of I'm not saying everybody in the younger generation, but I'm noticing a lot of people in the younger generation, they will work for a company for a year or two, and then they're like, okay, you know, they had some decent success, and they're like, well, I'm gonna go start my own company. I'm an expert in this. And I'm like, you don't have the wisdom or the experience to be the greatest at this. You just don't. It's too young. Like I had an 18-year sales career at the highest level, right? Highest echelon of anybody in the world. And when I started my company in late 2019, I'm like, can I really do this? I'm still like, can I do this? You know? But there's a lot of experience. A lot of people don't have that experience, and they wonder why they don't really get what they want because they're not patient enough. They don't learn enough.
That's one reason that it's very important that we put ourselves around uncomfortable situations. Like, so me coming from the inner city, I was fortunate enough, again, to have older siblings that trained me, like how to eat correctly, how to have a higher standard. And I'll never forget my mother said, we might be lower income, but we're not lower class.
I like that. That's a mindset thing.
Yeah, it's a mindset. And so when I started to get around like very powerful people in Beverly Hills, I remember one actor that everybody would know who he is. He said to me, we were at Spago's, and he said, I was like 28. He says, Tim, at this dinner, don't say anything. And I really thought to myself,
Okay.
why did you bring me?
Yeah.
He said, this dinner, don't say anything. Well, it was him and two other actors as big as him.
Okay.
Well, one of the actors really liked me, so he started pushing my buttons, and my charisma started popping out. And this guy started vibing with my charisma. It's like, dude, this guy's more exciting than you two other old geezers, famous geezers.
Yeah.
And so I started shining, started popping. And I was sitting next to the guy that brought me, and he kicked me sideways.
Yeah.
Which meant stop.
Yeah. Stop talking.
And so I didn't act like it was a big deal. I just kind of brought it back down, right? And then he said to me after we walked out, he says, now, Tim, because I like you, I will tell you, I will bring you back to other dinners like this. But if I didn't like you, I would not. Because I asked you to do something, and you did well for a while until you got overly excited. So the point of the matter was, this man later taught me, he says, when you get around very powerful, older people, they want to tell their story.
Yeah.
Don't say, I know. Don't say, I've been through that.
Yeah.
Because, buddy, you have not.
Yeah.
You have not won 3 Academy Awards.
Right.
And I wasn't going tit for tat, but my charisma was running high.
Sure. Yeah.
So those were really hard lessons, but good lessons that I never forgot.
No, 100%. Especially when you're trying to influence, right? The more you talk, typically the less you influence, as you know, right? I think it's right. Now, one thing I want to talk about, and we're going to come back to what we were just talking about in a second. You talk about how you get every person gets assigned something from God.
Yes.
When did you, how did you know that God was calling you to do what you do? When was that moment?
Okay, so first of all, let me say this, because you see me, I speak with the Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra. I travel the world with Oprah Winfrey. I'm in all types of settings. Sure. I speak in synagogues. I speak at big Catholic conventions and non-denominational churches, rehab centers. So I don't consider myself religious. I was raised Christian. I am Christian, but I'm not trying to preach at anybody right now.
Sure.
I honestly believe this, that most people are trying to chase what I call a good idea. That there's a difference between a good idea and a God idea. Okay, it's like when I first met you, I read people very well. I said, he's smart. This guy's smart.
Too kind.
Okay, this guy's smart. So because you're smart, that's a strength, but it's also a challenge.
Sure.
Because you're so smart, you could go like, hey, Grant Cardone's doing that. I think I'm going to do that too. Patrick McDavid's doing that. I think I'm going to do that too. John Paul DeJour just, recently sold Patron at $5 billion. I think I'm going to do that. Mark Cuban is in the pharmaceutical business. I'll jump in that. That is like you going off just your brain power on a good idea.
Yeah.
But watch how powerful this is. Good ideas may come to pass. God ideas must come to pass.
Yeah.
So I don't want a good idea. I want a God idea. So I get that from one scripture. It says this, for God knows the end from the beginning, and he knows what is yet to unfold.
Yeah.
So God knows what's supposed to unfold in your life in 2026, 2027, 2028. So why am I going to try to come up with my good ideas when I can follow my God ideas?
Yeah, I think I love that. I think he gives us each like a seed of talent. You know, it's like a parable in the New Testament. He gives us a seed of talent, and it's just what you do with that seed. Because you're not, you know, in my line of work, nobody is born with advanced questioning skills. You know, nobody's born with advanced tonality. Nobody's born with advanced objection, prevention, or handling skills. Those are skills you acquire, you have to master. But you can be born with that little seed, right? Maybe your seed is like you're very driven, or maybe your seed was, you know, I'm really caring with people.
Yes.
And I think most people on the flip side, the dark side, want you not to do anything with that seed, right? They want you to be afraid to do anything, you know, like people will judge me or whatever, but it's just growing that seed, you know, the godlike talent that you have.
Beautiful way of saying it.
That's what separates people.
Beautiful way of saying it. I can't even add to that. Beautiful way of saying it. It is the truth. It is about growing that seed, that side of your life. And I think we should grow so much that we're almost surprised.
Yeah.
I would like it for your life that even in the next 5 years that things become so good that they're almost weird. Where you have moments in your life where you're like, shucks, I couldn't have manipulated this thing together.
It's different.
This is like, next
It's different.
level.
I mean, you know how it is. You know, a lot of times for me, sometimes I just like to be by myself.
Yeah.
You know, because you know how it is, right? So you got video teams running around after you. You've got people always talking to you. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is like to sit on the couch by yourself in a room and just like think. And just
I'm
like
a big advocate
vegetate,
of that.
You know?
Yeah, I think every human being needs to be. So that to be a human being is to be fully present, fully feeling, and fully alive. And you really need the power of saying no. The bigger you get, you have to be a pro at saying no and not feeling guilty about it, just to protect yourself.
You have to, because if you want to be great at anything, you have to say no to almost everything.
Yes.
Somebody told me that. I'll give credit to whoever told me that one day.
Listen, I may give credit to him on that one because I never heard it. Maybe you.
It's putting the horse blind. It's putting the horse blinders on.
It's
put a horse blind. You know, I've got friends in the industry that own their own sales training companies, and they're always talking about, you know, scaling. And I'm like, the reason why you're here compared to we're up here is because you're all these opportunities come your way and you start to go this way a little bit, and then you get distracted and go over here, and then then I need to work on this, and I'm like, you'll never be able to get your brand out there or really help people unless you put we put our horse blinders, like this is all we do. Like this is our expertise. You know, if we do other things in our business, it has to do with sales. Like, you know, recruiting and staffing with companies come to us now to, you know, staff their salespeople, but that has something to do with sales. But this, you know, we're not going to start selling teapots next week, you know, wouldn't have anything to do with it, you know?
I want to throw something out that I think you'll identify with. I think a lot of times people think, okay, if I do this, the other, then this huge door is just going to open because I saw it, I manifested it. But here's what I have found in observing people's lives. Usually uncommon things happen during really common days.
Yeah.
It's like you're just like living in the mundane, like you're going to the gym, you go to CVS, get vitamins.
Yeah.
You're rolling around, and your assistant gives you this amazing phone call on some crazy, uncommon door that opened. And I find this in so many people's lives that uncommon things happen on very common days. And at times, it's times when you're not in a good season and you're not really feeling at your best, that beautiful things come.
And I think it comes from what you said. I think it was brilliant what you said. It's just, it's if you keep following through with your good habits and you just have that, just schedule of like, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, it's really hard for good things not to happen.
100%.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah. And because somebody does need somebody to do something.
Yeah.
Like in hot areas, man, that air conditioner, man or woman, is very needed.
Yeah.
Because if your air conditioner breaks and it's like
a lot of pain.
116 in Arizona, right?
People, we always say the two biggest emotional drivers that causes a human being to want to change are pain and the fear of future pain. So AC goes out in 116, there's a lot of pain and there's a fear of a lot of future pain if you don't get that fixed. You talk a lot about this saying, the miracle mentality. What does that mean for everybody? How can that help a salesperson or a business owner like really get better at their craft, or anybody get better at their craft?
Most of my messages come from observations, and I think that that's one reason people identify with me. So someone will say to me many times after I speak, man, I feel like you were speaking just to me. Because it's, again, a lot of my messages are coming from observations. The miracle mentality research that started 10 years ago came from noticing how people had lost their miracle mentality. So I would ask people, like at 25, I'd say, like, how's your life going? Oh, okay. You finished college, right? Yeah. How's that going? Oh, okay. Man, didn't you get in this law firm? How's it going? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when we were kids, and if somebody came into our classroom, if we were 5 or 6, and they said, what do you want to be when you get older? Kids say things like a fireman, a policeman, an astronaut. A little girl might say a queen, or I want to be Taylor Swift. Nobody's saying I want to be okay.
Yeah.
So I think that the miracle mentality needs to really be taught. And a miracle, as you know, is something extraordinary, uncommon, not normal.
Yeah.
Mentality, as you know, is a mindset, a perspective, a vantage point. And there's no doubt about it, in the midst of all the thoughts that come at us, roughly 50,000 a day, you and I have to really guard our miracle mentality. And we need to feed it.
Yeah.
I feed my mentality.
You
Yes.
keep putting more knowledge into it, right?
100%.
Or you start to die. Okay, so you've helped a lot of people at their lowest points in their life transform. Now, psychologically, what are you doing? Like, how are you helping them shift? Let's talk about, you've got Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I've worked with probably over 500 entertainers.
Yeah.
Probably 300 are at the A to A plus level.
Sure.
So let's just say anybody like that, okay? I would say that number one, if you're working with somebody and they're in a challenge, that number one, I have to help them to become awake.
When did you help him? When was this?
Well, number one, Robert's my guy. Like, that's my real friend. And I was on his board for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're like brothers. And so I started helping Robert in 1999.
Just back when he was kind of having some...
He was having challenges with addiction.
Yeah.
Started helping Charlie Sheen, 98.
Okay.
Steve Perry from Journey in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And then what happened is that from that came a plethora of probably 50 of our biggest movie stars. And then it took off into today. I think in today's world, I coach probably 12 of our biggest 20 of actors are, great singers.
Yeah.
And so number one, you have to become awake. So let's say with any individual.
How do you help them even become open to be awake? You got strong personality sometimes. So what are you doing in there to like really help them open up where they're like, hey, I know I need to do something different?
Yeah. So I would say that number one is I take them back to their childhood. And many, many clients, I even say, show me a childhood picture of yourself.
Really?
Or bring me several pictures. Or is there a way I can get to your mom, whether it's on Zoom or she meets us in person?
That's really brilliant.
Because the mother's going to talk.
Yeah.
And nobody taught me this. And I was trained by the best. I was trained by Dr. Helen Mendez, who taught at USC. And she is one of the most authentic people.
You got to tell everybody, I already know, I'm not going to ruin this. Tell people why you have them go back and look and visualize at a picture of their childhood. There's some deep psychology
Okay, so watch
stuff.
what I'm going to do to you.
Yeah.
It helps you to bump into your innocence. So if I was working with you, I'm not going to go after the guy that I see now, because you're highly successful, doing well, while you're working through challenges like anybody.
Sure.
I don't know what your challenges are.
We all have
I'm
them.
working through challenges,
Yeah.
you're working through challenges. But when I take them back to their childhood, I help them to bump into their innocence. And so this is what I do. Number one, become awake. Whether it's Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, Jessica Simpson, there's nobody I have not worked with.
Yeah.
I want you to bump into your innocence so you become awake. Secondly, take inventory. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. So where are you now? Oh my gosh, I have this problem. Oh my goodness, I don't show up to the set on time. Oh my goodness, I had to cancel my concert tour and tick off everybody because I lost millions and millions of dollars because I was acting up.
Yeah.
So number one, become awake. Secondly, take inventory. Number three, partner with the right people.
Yeah.
That is a strength that everybody who is watching this podcast needs.
Yeah.
We need to partner with the right people, because you could be the right person, but you got to have the right people.
That picture takes them back to an emotional state.
Yeah.
And when you take them back to that emotional state, there is a feeling that comes with there. And that feeling is typically a good feeling, because they're not going to show you a picture that's bad. They're going to show you usually the pictures they have that are like that, they're going to show you like a good picture. So it's taking them back into that emotional state, and it's getting them, it's kind of disarming them where they're more open. That's what you're doing.
100%. I just dealt with one of the biggest stars in Europe, who's gigantic today. And it's a beautiful actress. And that's where I took her, and she could not stop crying. And she says, Tim, what the heck? Because I lived in such innocence and I become such a bee. That's what she said. I said, well, I didn't say it, you said it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because you almost have to be reminded of the person you used to be. When life was not always about like, what's in it for me.
Yeah. The brilliant thing you just did there, and there's a lot more to that. I know we don't have time to go through it all, but you got her to self-actualize, where now she is telling herself.
She said it.
Why she's having the issues, not you telling her why. Because if you tell her why, it's most of the time, it's unless they're in massive pain, which most people aren't in massive pain, it goes in one ear out the other. She doesn't buy in. But because you got her to self-actualize and tell herself, this, like I used to be this, and now oh my God, now she attaches that and she feels like I need to change. And
Okay,
she will
what
actually
you're
do it.
saying is brilliant. And ladies and gentlemen, the new life coach to the stars.
That's just persuasion. It's influence.
It's powerful
that's
because
what we do in sales.
Okay.
It's just a different
That's
way.
true.
It's just human behavior.
So I think that you're right. Let's say if I'm dealing with Mike Tyson, which I have before.
Yeah.
And I like Mike and our friends. You're not going to try to tell Mike Tyson what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to become his idea.
Yeah. That's all. You're like I said, people do who they believe they are.
Yeah.
Right. So people can change identities very, very quickly. You can build them into a different identity if you want to, right? You can build them back into the identity they used to be if that was good. And brilliant taking them back to that picture. That's really good, man. I haven't heard that before. It's really good. I got to think through that more. That was really good. Okay, so a couple more questions here as we wrap it up. When you're on stage or when you're coaching a client, why is not just the words you say important, but really how you say those words that has the most impact?
Okay. According to the best, I'm pretty hard to beat on stage.
Good.
But that's not on accident.
Yeah.
No, I have a gift to communicate, but I've worked my gift forever. So I work with acting coaches starting in my 20s. I work with voice coaches, the number one voice coach of all time, Seth Riggs, who worked with Mariah Carey, Christina Aguilera. He worked with, Michael Jackson, Barbara Streisand, anybody, Ariana Grande. He helped me with my voice inflection, what to do with my voice, how to take my voice down, how to breathe, boom, bam,
To
bam,
change
boom,
your
bam,
change
bam.
your tonality based on the context.
So I've spoken in 82 countries of the world. My biggest crowd is 85,000 at one time. I've done 30,000 people over 30 times. 30,000 people over 30 times. How do you hold 30,000 people in the palm of your hand? Not easy. And to me, it's a gift, but a lot of it is really understanding the audience, the culture, and the climate. But I'm doing a one-man play. I'm doing a monologue. And I'm saying this all on purpose because I wish more speakers would do this, because a lot of speakers are only so good.
It's because the human brain recognizes patterns, and they recognize a pattern in a speaker. So if you're a speaker and you can't interrupt that pattern, they look at you as just like the person right before, right? So what are most people used to a speaker coming out to? They're used to a speaker coming out like, hey, how's it going? Like, how's the town? How's the weather? Like, I'm so excited. Everybody, who wants to make more money? And so it's like very predictable. So if I can't interrupt that pattern,
Well
I
said.
lose them in the first 10 seconds.
Well said. So what I would be looking for, it's like when Quincy Jones put together the group for We Are the World. He had anywhere from Steve Perry from Journey. He had Bob Dylan, who looked like he wasn't fitting in too well. Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, Billy Joel, and Quincy and Lionel Richie had to figure out how to get these guys to flow together.
Yeah.
And they were so brilliant to find out what is the essence of this person and what makes them great. And let's keep them in that position. So the key to you being the great speaker that you are.
I'm learning. I'm committed to mastery. It takes a while.
I can help coach you.
Yeah.
But I got to find that real you, that real essence. I just start popping around. Man, I need to bring that to the stage. Then you can't be stopped.
Yeah.
When people are saying to me like, are you nervous? Not so much.
Yeah.
I see these guys pacing before they're going to speak to a lot of people, like at the 10X conference or all these things that we speak at. They're pacing, or they have headphones, getting in their zone. I'm playing with people's kids.
Yeah.
If they have a dog, I'm playing with the dog.
Well,
Because, dude, I've already put the work in.
Yeah, it's what causes nervousness? A lack of skill.
Yeah.
What causes somebody to not really be nervous at anything? You're very skilled at that. So you know what to do. If you know what to do, it's really hard to be nervous.
Same in business.
Exactly.
I don't go into business meetings, which I'm in a lot of very good business meetings because I have a lot of very good companies.
Yeah.
I ain't scared.
Yeah.
I really am not.
But it's you said it best, the training you went through with, like vocal fluctuation, verbal pacing, verbal pausing, like Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream.
Yeah.
Watch that or listen to that. See how many times he pauses
Yes.
right before like something he wants to get in your brain.
Perfect.
So that keeps the audience engaged. That keeps breaking their pattern where it's like a mystery about, oh my gosh, what he's about to say is really, really important.
Yeah.
But it's the skill level. Okay, so Tim, great interview. Where can somebody go to learn more about what you do, and so they can kind of get ahead in their life for sure?
Yeah. So the best place is just Tim, and you guys will spell it right, and then Storey. I don't know why they put an E in my name. So Tim Storey, Storey.
Okay.
And something that I'm doing that's real cool is I'm doing my first crisis mastermind where you can spend 2 days with me, and I take you from setback to comeback in every area of your life. We're doing that in Beverly Hills.
Amazing.
Coming up in the next few months. So that's exciting. Then I do one-on-one life coaching and teach people how to master the stage, how to become better speakers.
Amazing.
But I love what I do. I think you could see
Yeah.
that. And it's a privilege to work with people.
No master hates what they do. To be a master, you have to love what you do. Because you do it not just for money, you do it for purpose, you do it for impact.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody, make sure you go follow Tim. We're going to put his Instagram handle in here. We'll get his links to his books. You've got the Miracle Mentality. You've got Setbacks to Comebacks book. Can those be found at Amazon, Barnes & Noble?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure you follow this guy because, look, you know, we're going to teach you the skill level, sales, persuasion, influence. It's also up here. It's your identity. It's who do you want to become? How do you get there? Tim is the go-to force to help you overcome some things that maybe are holding you back from picking up that phone, maybe holding you back from like being the best you can be, the person who you are meant to become. Until next episode, we'll see you then. Thanks, Tim. Okay.